When I was young, I was given this beautiful handmade dollhouse. It had real shingles and wallpaper. Some rooms even had carpeting. Even though it had all these details, it didn't have any windows or a functioning door. I would lay on my stomach with my chin resting on my hands, and I would imagine myself walking through it. There was a family of 4 living there that looked just like my set of dolls that I would play with in it. The daughter Emily and I had become good friends in the short time I had it. It was always so bright and cheery when I was there, unlike my home in reality. I created a little oasis in there for myself, or so I thought. Back in reality, my mom had called me for dinner. I excitedly told my parents all about what Emily and I had done during my visit. My mom looked strangely at my dad, and neither of them spoke a word. I looked down at my plate and ate the rest of my meal in silence. I laid in bed that night and pulled the comforter over my head while my parents argued, which is what they did every night when they thought I couldn't hear them. That night, they fought about the dollhouse. My mom said it needed to go because she had had nothing but nightmares since it arrived, and she had a bad feeling about it. Dad got mad and told her it was a dumb reason to get rid of it. He didn't believe in ghosts, hauntings, or anything of the sort. Upset that I may never see my friend again, I couldn't sleep. And as soon as my parents were in bed, I snuck downstairs with a flashlight and went for what possibly could have been one last visit. Emily greeted me with a hug, as she always did. But this visit, the house was different. It was very dark and musty, like a carpeted basement that had been leaking. I could feel the age of the house, if that makes sense. Emily and I walked to the living room and sat on the couch. There was a single lit candle on the coffee table, and I could barely see her face, even though she was right next to me. Normally, you could hear her mother humming from the other room, but now it was eerily quiet. "Where is everyone?" I asked. She sat there quietly for a moment, looking straight ahead before responding. "Father is home, so we have to be quiet." "Oh, okay," I responded. Her dad apparently was someone you didn't want to piss off. "Are you okay, Emily?" I asked. She stood up and walked to the staircase, so I followed her. What happened next still terrifies me to this day. She smiled at me and gave me a tight hug. I heard a loud gurgle in my ear and felt something roll down my back. Emily's head had fallen to the ground, and I was left standing there hugging onto her body. I let go of it and screamed. Her body fell to the ground. "You're supposed to be quiet," Emily's head snarled. Her body rolled to its stomach and started crawling towards me slowly like some kind of creepy, broken doll as her hands grabbed for my feet. I ran past her and up the stairs. At the top landing, I looked down and watched her slowly stagger to her feet. She then picked up her head and held it under her left arm. Twitching and growling, she glared at me from the bottom step. I ran for the attic, hoping I could find a way out from there. For some reason, I wasn't able to mentally leave the way I normally do. I was trapped. Shaking, I reached for the pull string to the attic stairs, and something fell out onto me. It was big and heavy. I couldn't move and struggled to get it off. I could hear Emily struggling to climb the stairs. In a panic, I finally pushed it off of me and looked at what had fallen, and to my surprise, it was Emily's dad. Her mom ran up out of nowhere, grabbed my wrist, and shoved me into the attic, locking it behind me. There wasn't much room in there, and there was no way out. It felt like my heart was going to explode. I heard the attic door being unlocked. It creaked loudly as it slowly opened. Emily was now at my feet. Her head looked like it had been crudely sewn back onto her body. It flopped to one side as if it was too heavy for her to hold up. Her eyes rolled into the back of her head until all I could see was white, and I heard this click as her jaw dislocated, extending down past her neck, and I could feel her breath on my leg as she drew closer. Suddenly, I smelled smoke, and Emily turned to look behind her. When she was distracted, I put my hands on her shoulders and shoved her, causing her to fall. I climbed out of the attic and rushed to the top landing of the stairs and looked down. There were flames everywhere, and it was getting harder to breathe. The last thing I remember seeing in there was Emily's mother with a pack of matches. She smiled and waved, then everything went dark. When I came out of the dollhouse, I was in an ambulance. "Mom, what happened?" "We heard the smoke detector, and when we came downstairs, the dollhouse was on fire, and you were passed out in front of it. No matter what your father did, he couldn't put it out," my mother responded. "What about Dad?" My mother shook her head sadly and hugged me tight. The dollhouse survived the fire without a scratch. It was put on the curb with the debris from the house, and within a month or so, there was a news report about a house fire. The smoke detectors failed, and the whole family burned. All that was left was an old, beautiful, handmade dollhouse.